Hi, all. I'm Cullen Haynes, and welcome to Law Live. You may be noticing a little bit earlier today, we are on your commute to work at 8:10 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. I wanted to get you before you start your day so we can have this stream going all day long. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for those re-listening on any of the platforms or any of the places you get your podcasts. This next guest, or my next guest I'm about to bring on, is a true legend. Been in the legal realm for 15 years, was a lawyer for 11, and then moved into her new role with Smokeball, and is a leading lecturer as well, and a very dear friend of mine. Can you please make very welcome our next guest for episode 58 of Law Live, the one and the only Miss Therese Aroyan. How are you, Therese? How are you? What's going on?
Good morning, Cullen. I'm really good, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for joining so early. Like, you're one of our first to do a morning session.
I'm an early bird, so that actually suits me really well. Thank you.
Very good. It looks like you're somewhere, maybe in the office or maybe university. Where are you right now? What's happening in your world right now?
Yeah, so I'm up bright and early, and I've come to the Smokeball office where I'm going to be working for the day.
Oh, great. And how is life at Smokeball? Is it all aces? Are you doing some interesting things?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a product manager. And so essentially what that means is, like, I'm the bridge between our customers and our development team. So we build software that makes lawyers do their jobs more efficiently. So I'm currently working on a product called Family Property. It's a product that was designed specifically for family lawyers, and that's where my background comes into that role. And I think, like, our main feature on that program is an interactive balance sheet, which helps people model out property settlements. I think the best way to explain it is that it's an Excel spreadsheet on steroids. But I think one of the main things that I'm wrestling with right at the moment is digitizing some family law court forms. I think one of the most interesting things about them, and I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with them, is that they are some of the most complex forms in the world. And so I think one of the most important jobs that I can do is to make them easier for lawyers to fill in, and just make their life easier, generally speaking.
I love that. Sounds like you got a lot of different things you're up to, wearing a lot of different hats there, Therese. So I'm interested by this one. How would you describe your busy life using just film titles?
Okay, so interestingly, I challenged myself not to use any legal films. I think that, as someone who is also a lawyer, we tend to define ourselves by the fact that we are lawyers. And so I want to sort of take a step back. But I think I wanted to start off with My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know whether you've seen it. But I'm not Greek. Yeah, it's not about a wedding. It's not about the wedding so much. But what I love about it, about that movie, is, I guess, the beauty and challenge of having a really big family, and how culture plays a big part in that. I come from a really big family. And I think there's just one scene in that movie that absolutely encapsulates things for me. And there's this scene where the main character is being, I think, invited over by her auntie for some dinner. And she says, I'm going to make you some meat. And the main character is trying to explain to her auntie, my partner is a vegetarian. So it's obviously a bit of a clash of cultures because she's Greek and this American man has come into her life and they want to get married. And the aunt says to her, what do you mean he doesn't eat no meat? Oh, that's okay. I'll make you lamb. And I think what I love about that scene is, I think from my ethnic culture, my aunties, my mum, my grandmothers, like their love language is food. And I think absolutely that's something that I've absolutely inherited. And we all have a story around that. And one of those is, my grandmother, she'd be making us food. And she would say to me, I'd say to her, Deta, which is like grandmother in my language, I'm full. And she'd be like, if you love me, you'll eat it. And I think it's just that really captures that love, and, making sure that you're happy and you're healthy. And I think just overall, I'm happiest when I'm feeding my friends and family. So that's sort of me in a nutshell, I guess, from a personal perspective. And then I think the other one is Miss Congeniality. Have you seen that?
I love that. What would you like to change in the world? harsher punishments for parole violation, and world peace.
Exactly. Sandy B is like a comedic queen, and I don't think that I've inherited her comedic timing. But what I love about that movie is that she's so protective of everybody around her, but I think she's at her best when she's mentoring everybody else to be their best. And I think for me, I've always loved that role of mentor and paying it forward because I had such strong mentors in my life. So I think, yeah, those two movies probably encapsulate me and my world. Yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, fantastic. So for those tuning in to Therese Aroyan, we've got the way she'd explain her life using film titles. We've got My Big Fat Greek Wedding, one of my favorites, actually, and Miss Congeniality, another absolute timeless gem. So be sure to watch those if you haven't and kind of resonate with where Therese is coming from. You talked about your family. You talked about food. I'd love to know where your interest in law came from, Therese. Was it your family or was it something else?
Oh, I think, look, growing up, there's always something that you want to be, right? I'm not sure what it was for you. But I think for me, I had three things. I either wanted to be an archaeologist because I was obsessed with Indiana Jones, a fashion designer, or a lawyer. So I think, wanting to be a lawyer is something that I've wanted to be since I was very young. And I think it was mainly because I was just really inquisitive, and I really wanted to help people, especially children. So I guess when I finished university, I was really fortunate because I ended up in a PLT position where things were to take me in two different directions. One was a private practice, and the other was an opportunity to work at the Federal Magistrates Court, as it was then known as a deputy associate. And I wanted to sort of do things on my own. This private practice was run by a family friend, so I thought I'm just going to give the court a go and see how I go. And I absolutely loved it. I think it gave me like such a unique perspective in the law, and I got to meet people there and watch people in court. And I think what struck me the most was like the role of the independent children's lawyer. So in family law, that is an advocate for children, and they're essentially advocate and act for children in their best interests. That drew me to it. And I ended up at Legal Aid for about 11 years, where I was able to fulfill, I guess, that dream and act for children all over New South Wales. So I think it's been a really long time that I've been working in the law. But I think, my career took a bit of a surprising turn about 4 years ago. At Legal Aid, I was given an opportunity to work in the legal tech space because they were looking at building, legal tech software for their organization, and I got involved with that. I sort of, things just escalated from there, and that's how I've ended up here at Snowball.
Oh, like everything, nothing just happens. It happens just, I believe there, Therese. So you're on, someone circled this on a map for you. So I truly believe that. And anyone tuning in, but this is interactive. This is live. This is 8:18 in the morning on Wednesday. So put your questions in the comments. We're streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch. And I was going to say X, but I think Elon Musk has now only made it for premium subscribers. Shocking. Shock me. But nonetheless, please engage. And thank you for anyone rewatching or listening right now. I'd love to change tact a little bit there, Therese. I'd love to get in a little bit deeper and hear about what's a surprising skill that has either helped you in your early career or helping you now in your legal career.
Yeah, I think this was a really good question. I think when I really considered it, obviously a lot of my skills are very well suited to being a lawyer and being in the role that I'm in now. But I think the one that's surprising was, I guess, my creativity. And what I mean by that is I was very artistic when I was growing up. And I think one of the things about law and engaging with clients is about communication. And I think I really tried to use my creativity in that aspect to sort of take out just the black and white of law and turn it into something that they could really understand. And so, when I was a lawyer, I would try to use things like calendars and color and all of those sorts of things to help them understand what their obligations were and to help them understand like what parenting orders they needed to seek. We obviously also needed to be creative in terms of solutions because not every family is the same. And I think absolutely this is translated into my job now because I'm constantly having to, I guess, translate what a client would like into something that a developer will understand. And that's, using diagrams, using flow charts, and all of those sorts of things to make things a little bit more, I guess, clearer, but also interesting as well.
So would you say you're a visual kinesthetic kind of person there, Therese, in terms of the way you learn and work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important for us to learn how to communicate in different ways because of, and I guess really depending on the audience that we're talking to, right? But I think it always helps because you want to engage people in multiple ways.
No, very good, very good. And in terms of, I put the title down here, the ticker's going on. I put focus on outcomes, not admin. And that probably ties into that whole technology piece, right? And using technology to make things easier. Because family law, from what I hear, is very hard. It's harrowing. There's some things that go on that, is harder than most other types of law, or so I hear. So you don't want to be bogged down in the minutiae, and you just want to be focused on those client outcomes. I'd love to maybe tease that out a bit more. What does it mean to focus on outcomes and not admin in your eyes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is where legal tech really helps. I think one of the things that I'm really passionate about is work-life balance for lawyers. But when we're talking about work, let's work smarter and not harder. I think that family property is absolutely a program that assists in that, because when we come to family law, there's both parenting and property, and often there's a lot of information that a lawyer needs to obtain about a family law matter. And so one of the things that family property does really well is our intake form. What that does is it draws out a lot of really critical information for both the client and the lawyer, and it gives clients an opportunity to answer it at their own pace. Often, it will. What that does for the lawyer is that when it actually comes to the lawyer's, I guess, attention, and when you're doing an interview with a client, a lot of that major stuff has already been covered, and so you're just going over the top of that and drawing things out, and you're able to give legal advice. So I think that's one aspect of being able to, again, not focus so much on the admin and just have a conversation with the client, because often you're taking notes and this is what you're doing the entire time, whereas it just allows you to stop and to actually engage engage more, I think. And I guess the second aspect is that balance sheet. And what that does is there's a lot of admin that comes into balance sheets, right? All the calculations that come into it. What that does, again, is it allows you to change these proposals in real time. Whereas usually you're doing it using an Excel spreadsheet, you're sitting there trying to figure out whether it's correct or not. And that's just one example, right, of how legal tech can assist. But I mean, Smokeball provides a whole bunch of products like, essentially helping to tender bundle documents, which is another major pain point in family law. So absolutely, what I think legal tech can do is look at the family law process from end to end and look at, products that will facilitate lawyers being able to focus on their clients and not so much on the paperwork, which is quite significant in family law matters.
No, very well said. Very well said. And it is 8:23. We've only got about 15 minutes left in the stream, guys. Please put your questions in. I can see a lot of people on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. We've got a bit of activity, so please put your questions in. Can be family law related, can be legal tech related, or you want to know something personally about Therese. I'm sure we can put those questions in. How do you unwind at the end of a particularly tough day, Therese? Love to know.
Oh, that's a good one. I think any type of chocolate. I'll just put it out there. There is a scene in Miss Congeniality where she asks for a pint of Ben & Jerry's. Absolutely favorite scene, and encapsulates me to a T, I think. You'll see that I'm a little bit obsessed with movies because I sort of speak to my life in them. But otherwise, I love reading. I think that's something that I've done since I was really young. It's absolutely the thing that helps me completely switch off. And yes. I think yes, you too, I think. I mean, I love reading your book summaries and reviews at the end of every month. So I think we're on the same page when it comes to books, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I think so. It's a great way to yeah, as you said, unwind, but see the world in a different light. You know, my wife got me into fiction recently, so I try to do that in the evenings. But I try to read widely, and it seems that every book reminds me to read something else. So I just finished Ikigai, which is the joy of living, and it talks about, you know, green tea and, you know, living a long life. But then it reminded me to read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. So I don't really have a rhyme or reason to what I read. It just seems one book reminds me to read something else. I don't know how your book in the way you choose things.
No, I think you've put it beautifully. Like, I'm absolutely about reading what gives you joy, and I think I'm also like you. I read very widely. I think my go-to fiction is fantasy. I absolutely love that because it takes me completely out of this world. I think especially in circumstances where when I was practicing, I needed something completely different to what I was doing. But yeah, I think it's interesting because I was reading this article about top 100 books the other day, and I think they're really interesting because I tend to sometimes I think that they have a lot of classics in them, but then they also have a lot of popular fiction, and sometimes I actually try to steer away from them. And yeah. I think there's a couple of reasons why. I think what I do try to do now is read a much more diverse amount of books. You know, trying to read from diverse and ethnic authors, because I think one of the most important things that we can do and get from reading books is empathizing with people, and I think that's one really good way of understanding and putting yourself in someone's shoes.
No, I highly recommend steering clear of like some of the popular choices. I've seen those lists before. And you know, it is my bugbear. Some of it irks me. You know, I like Atomic Habits like the rest of them, but how can it be in the top 10 for the next 10? Come on, surely there's more books out there that can claim that title. So my wife actually knew this about me and actually bought me 1,000 books to read before you die, and it's actually a book compiled. And there are some books that I'd never read. I'm actually going through the Education of Henry Adams, which was written in the 1800s. Very heady book. I'd never read it myself, but it's showing me different things. And I did read one that was set in 1700s in Nigeria from the point of view of the tribe. Very, very interesting. Again, I probably never would have picked that book up myself. So highly recommend maybe reading widely and going. Maybe they say in The Lonely Planet, when you travel, go to 2 streets away from where the tourists are. Maybe go, 2 reviews or 2 recommendations away from where the popular books are.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think actually one of my favorite podcasts, and I can't remember it right now, but it's a British podcast, and what they focus on is books that are not so widely known. And there's one of them. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Like, one of the books that they talk about is one of my favorite books, and it's a book called North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. So I think when we're talking about English literature, we're always thinking about Pride and Prejudice, right? But North and South is like a fantastic book about the Industrial Revolution in England. So yeah, highly recommend.
Fantastic. We could go for the rest of the stream about books there, Therese, but we've got so many questions. People need to know about you. Is there anything interesting that you're working on now? Any passion projects?
I mean, I think it's not so much of a work passion project, but just a life passion project. I think what I've always loved is history. I guess, yes. And what I'm really interested right now is, I guess, history, colonialism, and I guess the intersection with racism and misogyny. I think that, you know, that all collides. And we see that, I think, coming out in the media and, I guess, politics today in Australia and internationally. I think that, like, one of the things that I'm really interested in is, I guess, the individual choices that I can make, and as us collectively as a society as well, in terms of how we vote, because I think that, you know, ultimately, whilst we live in a very privileged country, sometimes, like, we are upholding systems that only benefit a select few, and I think that, for me, I feel like I've got a moral imperative to really look into that and see what I can do to assist people who are less fortunate than I am. And I think, again, this is where books come into it as well, because they really assist us to understand what it's like for other people. So what I'm reading right now is a book called White Tears, Brown Scars by Ruby Hamad. And that's a fantastic, I guess, look into the impact of colonialism and racism and misogyny and how that all collides and impacts on people who are, people of colour and minorities as well.
I'll put that in there so people know. White Tears, Brown Scars. Please get on this book. Have a look into it by recommendation by Therese. And the other one that we were just talking about, I just remembered, it's called Things Fall Apart by Nigerian author Chinua Achebe. So definitely get on those two books, please, everyone. Shifting gears a little bit, where do you see the legal profession in 10 years, Therese?
I mean, I think this is going to hark back to the discussion we've already had, but I absolutely hope that a lot more of the, I guess, legal profession have embraced digitization. I think that there are a lot of gains when it comes to that, and that might be using family property, that might be using Snowball, that might be using AI. Everything, I guess, to allow us to focus on what we're passionate about, both in terms of work and in terms of life generally. I think also what I'd hope as well is I think that there's a lot of focus on costs in family law especially. And I think that, potentially because of the gains that we can obtain because of technology, we may be able to use more of a fixed cost, model so that we're not only helping ourselves, but also helping our clients as well.
Very well said.
Yeah.
And on that note of, where law's going and the client experience, I guess, you can be as honest or anonymous as you want. What's the most unusual client request you've ever had to deal with in your career?
Yeah. This is back when I was a lawyer. So just to set the scene, I used to be a duty lawyer at the Federal and Family Court of Australia. So what that meant was there's a lot of people that came off the street and they would be entitled to about a 20 or 30-minute session so that we could assist. I guess we would triage them and look at how urgent they were. Sometimes we'd go into court with them and sometimes we'd give them advice. Sometimes we prepared court documents for them. So we had one really young gentleman. I think he was about 17 3/4. And he came from a cultural background that was very strongly Catholic belief. He came in because he wanted to get married to his pregnant girlfriend. And he asked us if he could get permission to get married before the age of 18 because his parents were about to embark on a really long journey. I'm not exactly sure where they were going, maybe Europe or something. And so he wanted to get consent from the court to get married. And so I think one of the things that we were doing was you ask a lot of questions, right? Because you need to understand whether or not they have they meet the requirements of the court, because court does allow younger people to get married as long as there's parental consent, and the court's made that order. But during the course of this conversation with him, what he had failed to mention is that this girlfriend, they'd already had another child. And so, here we were frantically thinking we could do this application for him, but ultimately the horse had already bolted in that situation. So, it was a little bit of a funny moment for us because instructions are everything. And I think that really brought home the fact that sometimes clients will only tell you what they think you want to hear, But yeah, so that was a bit of a funny anecdote.
No, very good. Oh my goodness. So I bet you'll never forget that one anytime soon. Oh, very good. Very good. Well, looking into the past as well and the lessons you've gleaned, is there anyone that strikes you as one of your most influential mentors for you? And why would that be?
Yeah, I absolutely love this question, Cullen, because I think it's really important to acknowledge the people in your life that have absolutely contributed to it. A few years ago, I did this leadership program, and one of the activities that they got us to do was look at the people around us, who was a mentor, who was a colleague, how close they were to you. And I think one of the things that struck me a lot was how I was surrounded by some incredible people. I think I'm going to answer this question in the work sphere. So one of the, and I'm sure this doesn't come as a surprise to you, but the first 2 years of my life as a lawyer was actually quite difficult. I was being micromanaged, and that has a real impact on my self-confidence. But, really fortunate and blessed to have, I think, two people in my life that really helped guide me. And the first is Dina Loomis, now Judge Loomis. She was an amazing mentor in the sense that she saw my potential and she guided my career, and is absolutely was a guiding light in terms of where I am today. I used to call her my Yoda. But I think absolute kudos and all the love in the world for my mentor, Matilda Sprizzy. Matilda, I think if I wanted to describe her, she's pure sunlight. She was my manager when I was a junior coming out of that other situation. And she absolutely is such a generous soul, both with her knowledge both work and life. She's such a knowledgeable, warm, generous person. And she's somebody who I think championed me then and champions me to this day. And I can't thank her enough for everything that she did for me, and she continues to do. She's still a senior lawyer guiding a lot of junior lawyers into their future careers as well.
Very well said. Shout out to those two amazing people in your life there, Therese. Hope they're watching, and if you're rewatching, feel free to DM Therese and say thank you. So, talking about the future, what would you like to see change in particular about law?
Yeah, I mean, I think two things. Again, shifting to working smarter, not harder. Let's invest in tech. Let's do the best thing that we can do so that we're not overwhelmed. I think the other thing as well is law tends to move not as quickly as technology. And I think that hopefully with this new generation who have a deeper understanding of technology, that law can keep up with societal and technological change. So I think, as an example, AI, there's a lot of issues, and this is really coming out of the bigger AI models where authors' information or material is being used, and there's a whole bunch of questions around copyright. Now, is the law keeping up with those sorts of challenges? I guess hopefully we'll see that happen over the next 10 years.
Good point. Good points. And any young professionals watching, or young lawyers, or those starting their career, what would you like to say to them? Or any lessons they can glean from your long and illuminous career there, Therese?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm a child of my generation. And, I'm giving away my age when I say I'm a millennial, but, we work about 12 to 15, we work 12 to 15 jobs in our lifetime. And I think what I try to say to people a lot is try new things. Don't be afraid to take risks. Every job you do teaches you something and makes you better at whatever you do next. So I think, don't be afraid to just take the leap into the unknown, because it will absolutely, guide you somewhere where you hopefully will be really comfortable and happy.
No, I love that. I love that. Just take the leap, feel the fear, and do it anyway, as Susan Jeffers would once said. And when all is said and done, maybe a bit morbid, but I think it's an important question. How would you like to be remembered one day, Therese?
Oh, yes. So this was a bit of a challenging one for me. I think someone who's got compassion, someone who you can have a difficult conversation with and not be afraid to have a difficult conversation with. I think also, I think when I say difficult, about important things, really. And then someone who follows through on their promises as well. I think that's me in a nutshell.
No, I think you're already doing that in spades, and I really appreciate you coming on to the morning show on Law Live there, Therese. What's on for the rest of the day? Is it a busy, jam-packed day?
Yes, busy. We've got someone new starting in the office. I'm really excited to meet her, and just trying to get some court forms out into the world.
Oh, very good. Well, to this new starter, you would be their new mentor, right? So couldn't be in better company.
Yeah, I hope so.
Very good, very good. And where can people find you, Therese? Where are you hanging out the most? Where can they get in touch?
Oh, goodness. LinkedIn is probably the best place to get in touch with me. I mean, I think on a personal level, I'm always happy in a bookstore or a cafe.
Very good, very good. So please DM Therese on LinkedIn, or if you happen to have a perchance meeting in the bookstore, make sure you throw some left of center recommendations her way. I really appreciate you joining, Therese. We'll bring you back for some bonus questions.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And if you are a legend of law or know someone who is and you'd like to be on one of our future streams, I think we're booked out until October, November. So it'll most likely be the end of the year or next year. Please get in contact. We come out every Wednesday, talking to another legend of law. And we've also got our sister podcast, Ledger Legends, where we introduce or interview leading legends of accounting. And we've got another one coming your way at 12:30 today, which we're very excited about. Thank you for anyone tuning in. And we come out also wherever you get your podcasts. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Bye for now, everyone. Have a great day and make it count this Wednesday. Therese, bringing you back for some quick questions. How would you describe your role to a 6-year-old child?
Yeah, I think I would tell them that I actually tell people how to build computer apps for adults to help them with their work.
That is so simple to understand, let me tell you. Like, I've been going to smoke ball events for the last 3 years. No one's told me what it really does. You've just done it. So there you go. How would your pet describe you if you've had one or have one?
So I don't have any pets at the moment, although I'm so tempted to buy a dog. But I think I'm going to base this off my nephews and nieces. I think that they would say that I'm an absolute pushover. They have me wrapped around their little finger. I absolutely love to keep them happy. So, buying and spoiling them rotten. So I think that's me.
Good on you. A pushover. Not in business, but with your nieces and nephews. That's it. Here we go. And last but not least, this is one of my favorite questions to ask, and especially for yourself there, Therese. I'd love to know how you'd answer it. If you could go back in time, give yourself advice at any age, what age would you be when you give yourself this advice, and what would you particularly tell yourself back then?
Ooh, what age?
Yes.
That's an interesting one. I mean, I think maybe in my 20s, I would tell myself this. I think I've already covered the whole take risks, because it's going to absolutely add to your life. But I think what I would love to say is travel. I think traveling opens up your mind, teaches you a lot about yourself, teaches you to be independent, teaches you about a lot about other people, about food and culture. So absolutely something that I think would be my recommendation to everybody.
Travel. I love that. And we just talked about it before. If there's a recommendation in a tourist trap, go 2 streets over and you'll be surprised.
Absolutely.
Very good, Therese. Thank you so much for being with us here today. And you have the best Wednesday and make it count. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.